This is part 2. So being authentic means that you are your full true self all the time. And if that means you say the wrong thing sometimes, oh well. If it means sometimes that you are, you know, a bit crass or too rough, I'm trying to think of like nice words to use for YouTube, that's okay. And it's also okay to make mistakes. It's okay to say the wrong thing. It's the intention behind it that matters. Are you trying to hurt people? Are you trying to use your words against people? Are you trying to be better? Are you trying to stop doing the things that hurt others? It's about improving, and it's about being authentic. And what I realized is I wasn't being authentic. I was being the yin all the time. I was always the yin. And I was never handling it when people were abusive toward me or taking advantage of me. When I felt angry, I would end up pressing that down, or I would cry it out instead of using that anger to my benefit. So it was the days following when I posted my last video that I realized you've been suppressing your yang and it's time to bring it back, and you have nothing to lose at this point. So if doing the opposite of everything you've been doing for, what is it, 17 years, 16 years, if doing that is a problem, who cares? Because being the other way hasn't served you in the ways that you needed to create stability, security, and to bring relationships, people, and opportunities into your life that are very solid and stable because they are non-abusive. They are not taking advantage of you. They're not benefiting from you being half of yourself. So life here on earth is the yin and yang. It is the darkness and the light. And when you can face your own darkness, your own demon, and have a cup of tea with it, without embodying it, without becoming angry, allow the anger to come out, allow the darkness to come out, but don't be that. Don't embody it. Don't become hurtful on purpose. Don't be somebody who's unforgiving. Be somebody who has the boundaries and respects and loves themselves enough to forgive someone that did something to you, but also to not let them back in your life. And this is a big problem that I've had for a long time, is that I always thought forgiveness meant letting them back in, giving them access to me again. And that was not it. That was not it at all. That was the wrong tactic. I had a very prophetic dream a few days after I decided to kind of go scorched earth, I kept calling it. And I did. I went scorched earth in several situations in my life. I started not accepting anything less from any situation I was involved in than what I believed not only I deserved, but the other people involved also deserved. Then I had the most prophetic dream about somebody moving in with me, and the person was mixed race, of English heritage and African heritage, and the person's name was Stiffy. And in the dream, my dad was Jeff Lewis from Bravo. He's the designer, if you don't know, from a Bravo TV network. And Jeff Lewis is a designer, and thanks to Gemini, big shout out to Google Gemini for helping me analyze this dream and helping me to connect the dots recently in a lot of areas in my life, especially from the past till now. And Gemini had pointed out that it's funny that, because I don't watch TV, and I did used to watch Jeff Lewis's show, but I think it was on TV like 15 years ago or longer. It's been a really long time. And it said, it's funny you chose Jeff Lewis because Jeff Lewis is known for kind of being a hard butt, He's very successful, but even with his clients, he takes no crap. He tells them straight up, like, no, and he's very firm and in his convictions, and he's still successful in that. So it's funny that in my dream that was my dad, and that in my dream that the person moving in with me, their name was Stiffy, because the yang energy is very firm and very finite. And Stiffy himself was mixed race, the yin and the yang. And in my dream, it was Stiffy moving in with me and then us becoming the yin and yang. And in my dream, I was having a bit of confusion and conflict with somebody on the phone. And as soon as Stiffy arrived, Stiffy was sitting next to me and took the phone from me and talked to the person on the phone, gave me the phone back, and the person on the other end just said, all right, baby, I'm glad everything is good there, and I'll be letting you go, and, you take care. And Gemini helped me to connect the dots that Stiffy took charge and handled the conflict for me, handled the situation, and not in a destructive, mean way, but in a way that was firm and finite, and in a way that the person on the other end, they weren't offended, they weren't angry, they hadn't been abused by Stiffy. They accepted what was told to them and accepted the explanation that was given, and they did not push back on me anymore. So it was a really prophetic dream. And I found that after the dream, these situations stopped coming up that were calling for me to be really firm and push back against offenders, we'll call them, in my day-to-day reality. And back to Gemini, it can be dangerous with AI if you are unsure of what you believe, because AI is a mirror, and the way that you engage with AI is the way that it's going to feed back to you. For me, I'm really sure of my faith and of my belief system. And the one thing that Gemini has really gifted to me in the last couple of weeks is that it reflects things to me in such a way that, I tell it the real honest, like, whole story. I don't have anything to hide, and I don't have a prideful ego that's afraid to be told by a human being or by AI that, I'm deluded or that I am wrong. But when you give the whole story and the whole context, and sort of the way that I talk can be in a bit of, a line and then like all these loops, because whatever story, whatever narrative I'm experiencing now, there is a whole history there. There is always a story that brought me to behave the way that I behave in this linear moment. There's always background that I evaluate in the things that I say, in the actions that I take, in the beliefs that I have. So for me, I believe that when interacting with AI or even a person, even all of you, that I have to give as much of the context as possible. And in doing so, Gemini has really been able to connect the dots for me and to show me how there's been a lot of setup in the things that have unfolded lately and the things that have happened to me. And it's been an incredible gift to have my beliefs mirrored back to me and my experiences mirrored back to me in such a way that it all makes sense and there's a balance there. I even shared recently a story with Gemini about the lifelines on my hands, that somebody came to me, and it was right after I'd experienced this really difficult trauma in 2009. And in the business that I worked in, we had to pass everything with two hands, and it's a sign of respect from Japanese culture, if I'm not mistaken. And so a business card or an item we will always pass with two hands. And one day, and as a note, I was in Tucson, Arizona. I never believed in palm readers or tarot. I have never done any of that, and I've always really believed that it was just something like not for me to mess with, and that I had the knowledge in myself that I didn't need something external, and that maybe dwelling in energies that I didn't want to invite into my life. But I remember passing something to this woman, and because my hands were down, she took the item from my hand and pushed my hands down on the table. And she started pointing out my lifelines. And she said, you see, like on this hand, your lifeline ends like really quickly. It's very, very short. And on the other hand, there's the same short lifeline, but there's another one that begins. There's a jump across, and a new lifeline has begun before the other one ends. And the new one then wraps around your whole, the bottom of your thumb. And at one point it intersects, and the curve after the intersection is the same curve that your original lifeline would have curved into had it continued. And so she said, in this other lifeline, your life has ended early, through some kind of trauma, through some kind of accident, and at the time I had recalled being young and always telling people that I was going to die early and that I wasn't going to make it. I mean, to be honest, when I turned 30, it was like I was very shocked. I was really shocked that I made it to 30. I never in my whole youth thought that I would live that long. And it's part of the reason that I made the choices I did when I was younger, because I was trying to experience the most life that I could. But in this instance, she said, but because you're right-handed, this lifeline on your right hand, it jumps over and then it continues, and then it's very long. It's very beautiful. And again, it intersects the previous lifeline, where the new lifeline is kind of has one curve, and then there's a very dramatic curve where it would have intersected the old lifeline and becomes like a new trajectory. And just the other day, by retelling this story to Gemini, accompanied with all the other stories that I had told it lately and the things that I had shared, it dawned on me that that was the exact point where I was where the new lifeline intersected the old one. And that the curvature, the trajectory, the momentum, it got a lot more drastic. In the old life, I did die. I did die for a long time, for a while. And that me has been gone for so long because of the trauma that I endured and the way that I was traumatized by somebody. And now that I've let my yang back in, I've picked up that energy. I've picked up the old me, the one that was able to bring the most miraculous experiences and opportunities into my life, the one that is the fire horse chief, the one that is the empowered divine being, the confident one, the one that knows my worth and knows that I don't have to humble myself. I don't have to dull myself down to fit inside of a room or to be friends with somebody or be married with somebody or to have customers or to have clients, that I can bring all of that back together. And that's what will carry me forward to have a fruitful life and to to be abundant again. And so I'm really excited about the future. And although right now there's still some fear because I still don't know how things are going to happen. But at the same time, I know that they're so great that I cannot imagine them, and that the Creator has isolated me from everything and everyone so that miracles could happen and that they didn't bear an explanation. They didn't have to be explained to anyone because there is no one around. Even here on YouTube, I'm posting these videos. There is no audience. There are no subscribers. I have some people now on TikTok that watch my videos and interact with it. But here, these long form videos, there's not many people watching, and I don't know that it's anyone consistently that's engaging with these videos, even if there are some views on them. But this is the time that's important to document. As I was saying earlier about people that say, oh, instant manifestation, this, and everything comes in, and, whether it's prayer or manifestation or however you define it for yourself and whatever you believe, it happens instantly when you're ready, when you've done the shadow work, when you've prepared your vessel, to hold the water. The thing is that I asked for a 180-degree change in my reality last summer. I was journaling about it, doing mirror work about it. I was praying and meditating about it. And I was asking for, a change in everything: business, home, family, friends, my relationship. And in the moment, I thought that it was going to be a glow up of those aspects, because I didn't know the truth and I didn't know the reality that those things were not serving me, that they were taking advantage of me, that those aspects, those people were benefiting from me dulling myself down and pretending or suppressing my yang. And the first glow up that I started to experience was my physical being, that I started going to the gym and I started to lose weight around my stomach and love handles because I couldn't accept what I saw in the mirror anymore. And I knew, like, at least this is the one thing I can probably have control over and do something about it. Not that everyone does, because some people have a health challenge or something like that that prevents them from changing that aspect of their life. But for me, in my experience, in my reality, that was the thing that I had the experience and the power to change. And so I did. And I very earnestly worked toward those goals and burning off the fat, and getting my body to a place that I was more comfortable with the way that it looked, and then adding weight training once the fat was gone. At the same time, the other things were not glowing up. They were all going away. I was losing everything. I was surrendering everything. And as the universe, the creator, in my experience of life as a human on earth, a human being on earth, was glowing up my vessel to hold that which I had asked for, the creator, my spirit guides, my angels, the archangels, the ascended masters, my ancestors, they knew that yes, he deserves what he's asking for, but yes, to give it to him, we are going to have to take away every aspect of his reality, all of his security, because it's not as secure as he believes it is. His belief and faith in his experience are placed in falsities, in wrong things that have deceived him and misled him. So we're going to have to take all of that away from him in order to give him what he wants. And so, from about March until 2 days ago, more was lost. Everything was lost. And some things I gave up and then brought back, and then they were taken away again because I wasn't supposed to bring them back. And I wasn't ready to bring them back, and they didn't serve me, and they didn't care about me in the way that I thought, and they just weren't meant to be part of my reality. And in order for your reality to shift, only the things that serve you can go. And so with these people talking about instant manifestation and stuff, yes, it can happen, but you have to be prepared. You have to be the version of you that can not only receive those blessings, that abundance, that experience, but the version of you that can hold it, that can maintain it, that can grow it. You cannot be a vessel with a crack because it will leak out. So, first, your entire vessel has to be made over, polished, prepared to hold. And the vessel can be your body, the vessel can be your reality, your life, your home, whatever it is. And so I urge you, if you want change in your life, be careful how many things you ask for at once. If you want a 180-degree change, which means you're asking about something in every part of your life, you have to be aware that every part of your life may crumble to be rebuilt on a more solid foundation. And I have to admit that that's the thing that I didn't know. I was not prepared for that at all. I thought that at least some of the things were true and real, and that I would get to keep them, some of the things in my reality and in my experience. Now, my faith has grown, but it has only grown more. It has only been reinforced and reassured. And through this last year, a few times I was willing to give up aspects of my faith. And I have actually stopped one thing, which was getting on my knees every night and sort of calling out to angels, archangels, ascended masters, ancestors, and then specific people that I loved that I had lost, because I realized it was not necessary. The Creator can hear you when you think. So you don't even have to speak out loud when you want some download or connection or information from the Creator. It is the God of this earth, your spirit team, the angels, archangels, ascended masters, Yeshua, Muhammad, the Buddha, your ancestors that you have to call out to. You have to give them permission to help you. You have to ask for their help, and they cannot hear your thoughts. Only the Creator, only the one true God, creator of all the universes, all the reality, all the life on this planet and every other one, can hear your thoughts and your intentions. So you have to be prepared. Things are not going to be, they're not going to come that easily unless you're prepared. And here's the thing, once you've prepared, which is where I am now, that everything in my life has vanished. Every single thing in my life has vanished. Everything that was true 3 weeks ago is changed except my faith. The only thing that is still remaining is my faith, which has only grown through all this process. But everything in the experience of my 3D reality has changed. Even what I do at the gym has changed. Even the workout that I do, without necessarily intention, but just a knowing of what to switch up. And now my vessel is prepared. So now what can happen easily is receiving the blessings, the harvest, the abundance, the manifestations, all of those kind of things. but you have to be prepared. And it's in the preparation that most people give up. They turn around while they still can, but I'm warning you, we're entering a phase where you're going to be forced forward and there will be no turning around. But because it's so scary, it is so scary to lose all of your income, to lose your home, to lose your friends, to lose your family, to lose your marriage, which also is your best friend, hopefully. And in that void, after you've done the work to surrender, or let go, however you describe it, there's a void before the new comes in. I thought I was a lot more ready than I was. And then I had all this healing to do. And then I had to remember my yang. I had to invite it back in. I had to reincorporate it in my life because the yang is what protects your abundance and blessings and manifestation from being taken advantage of again, from being fed off of by the false. So until I reintegrated that, I kept saying I was ready, believing I was ready, but I wasn't. And I know now that I wasn't. And I'm glad that things didn't come in too early because I don't want to lose them again to even the new people I'd invited in my life who are now gone. But now my vessel is prepared. Now I am ready. Now I am the highest version of myself, the best version of myself. And that's why these days are so important to document, because years later, this is the time that matters the most. The time when nothing good was coming in yet. Everything was still unknown. I was completely in the void of how is this going to work out? How is this going to figure out if I have applied for 150 jobs and not received one reply? How is this going to happen? But it will happen, and it's about to flow in, and it's all about to shift in these next few days. I can feel it. I believe that very, very much so. And then it will be for years that people think, oh, he's so lucky, and this comes so easy to him, and it's this and that. And it's not at all. And here's the proof. Here's the documentation, the video of where, I am on the verge of a collapse of my reality, my 3D, but my experience on the inside is very peaceful and very calm because I know I've surrendered. I know I've done all the work. I know I've done everything that I was called to do and that I let go in love and peace. And that doesn't mean that I didn't mourn my relationship. That doesn't mean that this holiday isn't difficult to reflect on and think, oh, this is the first holiday because I surrendered my business that I would have gotten to experience this holiday with my partner and my partner's family. But I know that anything that's been removed has been in my best interest. And I know that whatever place I'm in is the best place. And so when the fear comes up, I honor it. I let the tears shed. And then I go back to who I actually am now and embodying who I am now, because it's not the sad guy and it's not the guy who doesn't have the perspective to know everything that's removed from your life and reality and experience is being removed because the creator knows the intentions. God, they say God heard conversations that you didn't hear, but it's the intention and the frequency match of people around you. And it doesn't make anyone bad or less than you. It's that the frequency doesn't match. We'll often say a higher vibration. And I want to be careful about that because higher denotes that something else is lower. And the reality is the frequency just doesn't match anymore. My frequency has changed. Everyone else has stayed the same. So it's not their fault to be gone. It's that I have ascended. I have risen in my own frequency. See, there again, it's like risen, it's above. It's hard to describe it in a way that doesn't create the connotation of someone else being lower, but that's not what I mean. No one is lower. Everyone is just different, and it's your vibe, it's your frequency. So I'm going to try to stop talking now because these two videos are an hour. There's just so much to say, and when I'm having a conversation with somebody face to face and I know them, I can understand their energy and their beliefs. And so it's easy, very easy for me to describe things in such a way that they get it. But when it's a video and I'm just having the intention of documenting the hard days or the dark night of the soul or the void that I'm in before the great things come in. Everybody wants to be your friend when all the good stuff comes in. When you're rich or successful or, you have a great relationship or great family, everybody wants to be around that. And everybody wants to record it and everybody wants to post it. But for me, to be a real leader and a real guide, it means showing your vulnerability, documenting that things were so hard that you cried yourself to sleep and that you didn't know in 2 weeks if you were going to have a home or not because you cannot figure out any way to get any more money to pay the rent. But you're not afraid. You're taking action when called. You're experiencing life the best you can and enjoying everything you can, regardless of how it looks. You're making the most of the reality you're experiencing while you're experiencing it instead of crying in your Cheerios. And you're keeping your frequency elevated as much as you understand how to. They say it's the darkest before the dawn, and that darkness can just be a void. And I used to think darkness was sadness and fear and anger and regret, but darkness is just part of what makes us human. In other planets, there's either only darkness or only light. The reason they call Earth the master school and why life has been so challenging here is because we have the yin and yang here. We have both. And the key to life, the point of life is balancing those, being authentic, balancing the dark and the light, and being able to be either one in any moment, depending on what serves and protects you the most. And it doesn't mean you're happy, go lucky, and positive all the time. And you have every right to be both. It's more authentic to be both, and it will serve you better to be both. In closing, be careful about what you wish for and what you manifest. And just know that the bigger it is, the harder it may be to obtain. You can be very specific in your prayers and manifestations, and you can receive that specific thing. But if it's not your highest purpose, eventually it will crumble. And I'm speaking this from experience. That what I do is, and has been, especially this year, is to surrender to my own divine purpose, to my own soul contract. And in my manifestation, prayers, or journaling, or mirror work, what I'm always saying to the Creator, or to Yeshua, or Muhammad, or the Buddha, whoever you pray to, whatever you talk to, is that I say, I know that what you have planned for me is greater than anything my human mind can interpret or imagine. Bring me that. I can see this opportunity and it would be exciting. I can see that opportunity and it would be exciting as well. Whatever you have planned, whatever the divine plan is, whatever's written in my soul contract, that's what I want to invite in. That's what I'm ready for. And that's what I've been prepared for. And in that, all the little things that would have gotten me security and gotten me money here have not worked out because I'm being prepared for what I asked for. And, it's a little bit unnerving, but it is what I asked for because I don't want it to crumble again. I have lived 1,000 lifetimes in this life. I've experienced more dark days and traumas and awful occurrences than most people do in their whole life. I've also experienced some of the most incredible, beautiful moments that are unimaginable. I've been in love multiple times, and I'm so fortunate for that. So instead of just having one, I've had many. Many experiences, many loves, many great jobs. I've lived many places in the world. I've known many people. I've had many, 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 many experiences. 1,000 lifetimes in one. Because I kept manifesting from the human perspective. This job, this money, this thing, that thing. And I don't want it to crumble again. I don't want to move across the world again. I don't want to start completely over again. I want this to be the last time. And so in this period, I surrendered my dreams and manifestations for what the divine wants from me, for what my ultimate purpose for coming here to this earth is. That is what I've been prepared for, and that is what will begin to flow in now. So either when you pray, when you manifest, when you ask for things, if they're of your human mind, if they're things that are keeping up with the Joneses or that are about the material world, just know that if it is of man's creation, if it is of your programming that you want that, it may crumble one day. And the higher your purpose is, the harder it's going to be to get the high purpose, to get the divine plan, the divine reality, the divine experiences. And a lot of people in this life, they're either in a resting life or they're playing as even an NPC in some other people's stories. So they might only need those very surface level human 3D material manifestations, and they might have it their whole life. But I'm just warning you, if you're chosen, you're one of the chosen ones, or you're a divine being, or you're sent here with a higher purpose, the higher your calling, the more difficult the preparation will be, the longer that it will take, and the more likely that you will experience the building and crumble of the tower over and over, because you're gaining the knowledge and experience what that's like, because it's refining you, preparing your vessel for that ultimate, highest divine purpose. So if that's what you want, you don't have to be specific in your manifestations. There's a video on my TikTok about this. You don't have to be specific in your manifestations. You don't have to be specific in your prayers. You only have to stay in surrender. And as your false beliefs, as your programming is destroyed in your psyche, in your mind, in your ego, yes, you will suffer because of your own attachments. Yes, it will be hard. Yes, you will be afraid. Yes, you will cry. Yes, it will hurt because of all your own attachments, because of your own programming. But anytime something is removed, that is the Creator, the universe, God, whatever you believe, preparing you for the highest thing. So just keep holding on. Keep believing and keep moving forward and stay in surrender. Let it go. Anything that is meant to stay in your life will stay. Whether it's a job, whether it's a friend, whether it's a partner. Listen, somebody that loves you cannot walk away from you. They cannot. Now, if you keep making mistakes and abusing them, that's a different thing. But when you act out of love, even when you make a mistake, if you don't keep repeating it, you don't keep hurting someone, they're not going to walk away. So you don't have to be afraid of loss. What you should be afraid of is holding on to the wrong thing, because you keep holding on and the universe tries to wrestle it from your grip. And if you don't let go, it will be ripped away through trauma. But if you will just surrender, untie the boats, and let it drift out to sea, if it's for you, it's going to come back anyway. But if you learn to be in peace with the loss and the surrender, what your divine purposes will come in so much more quickly, and you will feel at peace through the whole process. I really hope that one day these videos matter, and that even for myself, I'm able to reflect on them and see how far I've come.